All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the kickoff of Simply CyberCon 2024. We're doing workshops today, the day before the con. Many of you will be attending virtually or in person tomorrow, November 1st, at Simply CyberCon. We got two tracks. It's going to be exciting. But today, one day before the workshops, Steve McMichael is going to be absolutely melting your face with GRC content, practical skills you're going to learn in the next 45 minutes. I'm super excited. If you are here, I know we've got YouTube chat, but I wanted to try to run through the Discord server. You can see here on Discord, there is the workshop channel. You can see a couple people already in there. The workshop channel is right here under the channel. And then this, in fact, is where it's going to be. I see Alpha Sierra is already in there. I'll be manning the chat. I'll be producing the stream here with Steve doing the front end stuff. So we want to move the conversation over there, get that Discord server pumped and primed and get it going. So let me introduce you to your workshop instructor today, Steve McMichael. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great, Jerry. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm so excited for the con.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, I will step away. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your experience. And Steve, if you could just kind of set expectations, and if anyone needs to get anything lined up, I did drop the blog post in the workshop. If you want that Excel spreadsheet dropped in there, I can do that as well. Just let me know. Otherwise, Steve McMichael, take it away. And Steve, at the end, do let people know that you'll be going to the Discord server for follow-up and Q&A at the end, because we have a tight timeline of 12:45. All right, I'm out.
All right, thanks, Jerry. All right, so thank you so much for being here. I'm Steve, and I'm in Simply Cyber Academy, and I love GRC, and I loved Simply CyberCon last year. It's so exciting to get to have a workshop for you today. When I think about skills that are helpful as a practical application as being a GRC practitioner or being a cybersecurity consultant, or just generally coming from my background of accounting and getting into GRC, 4 or 5 years ago, and then interfacing with you in the community, think about what skills to focus on today. I think a couple of things came to mind, and it's all built around this theme about how to effectively communicate in business terms your cybersecurity related data, right? So how would I make a scorecard like this? I think in the workshop today, I'm going to give you some tools and some skills to be able to produce something like that, so you can have credibility in winning hearts and minds and advancing your mission to bring cyber risk reduction. And this is what the cybersecurity framework, well, that's one of the tools, right? So the tools are NIST cybersecurity framework, make a profile. We know that it's the best framework for framing your information security management program and doing what figure 5 here says in that free 32-page PDF from NIST.gov, how to talk about cyber risk to executives, to managers and practitioners. And it does a really good job at that. Now, well, NIST tells you what to do. It doesn't tell you how to do it. So another tool I'm going to skim through today and frame kind of an Excel workshop around is this thing called the Cyber Risk Management Action Plan. And it talks about how to be a practitioner and do what CSF says to do. And then, so I'm going to be heavy today on Excel, tables, slicers, pivot tables, charts, and Power Query. Just like GRC, these tools are also awesome and underrated. And they're fit for purpose for tasks that are going to help you find insights from data and be able to communicate effectively those insights. All right, so that's the main focus today, but we're going to touch all of these things. And then also after today's workshop with that hard 45-minute constraint, happy to chat in Discord and in the Simply Cyber community about all these topics, all right? But today we're heavy on this one. And then also sprinkling in the Fabric open source framework for augmenting humans with AI, which is super cool. And I've got a custom prompt about CSF to demo today. All of this is in the blog post, and the spreadsheet Jerry mentioned is right here. So what we're going to do in a nutshell is take this stock NIST CSF 2.0 profiles template and transform it into the kind of a scorecard in more detail. And so I'll show you what that's all about. So you get the finished product right here now. You get the steps in the blog post right now. And my focus, it's going to be very densely packed, is to demonstrate that these steps work and give you an idea of how to apply them, all right? As we do that, views are expressed are my own. It's going to be a brisk pace, but we can talk in Discord. And it's all about evaluating our skills, methods, and mindsets. Heavy on the skills and the methods today, with CSF being the center of it. And of course, living and breathing Simply Cyber values of inclusion, support, value delivery, empowerment, collaboration, passion, and integrity. Let's go. I think I do need a little, you need to study right now.
Yeah, and hey, let me jump in
Yeah.
here really quick, Steve. Everyone, I just want to remind everybody the workshop chat channel is on the Simply Cyber Con Discord server, not the Simply Cyber server. So, Simply Cyber Con Discord server, I'll drop another link in chat. It's under the workshop tab. I'm going to show it one more time. Seems to be a little bit of confusion here. You can see right here on Simply Cyber Con Discord server, which is going to look like this right here. This is the Simply CyberCon Discord server, and the workshop channel, which is this one right here. And you can see here, Lara Flores, Carrie, Alpha Sierra is in here. This is what it looks like. So this is what you want to be looking for during the workshop, as well as after the workshop, where Steve's going to go in order to engage with attendees and answer follow-up questions. I'll drop a link below. If anyone guys, if you see someone confused, please let them know about that during the workshop. Steve, take it away.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's a village, and it's a community, and we're all coming to that community, helping in ways that we can. And so for me, I think it's about showing you how to make something like this out of something that's on the internet like that, all with basic skills in Excel. It's framed around this cybersecurity framework. If you've been following the daily cyber threat briefing, if you've been following the Simply Cyber community, maybe you already know all about that. I'd love to, but I can't dive into it right now. But I did link to a separate video, including a Simply Cyber podcast, talking about that and how it's about a reasonable, repeatable cybersecurity practice. And we're coming in with cyber resilience as another continuous process that's plan, do, check, act, like they say in ISO 27001, making it an information security management system, or another wheel in the cybersecurity framework with the word repeat. And then Jerry in his new module in Simply Cyber Masterclass talking about, I love this quote, just like everything else in GRC, rinse and repeat. I hate to make it sound so uncool or whatever, but that's the deal, right? This is how you become a baller GRC analyst. So I love how we're elevating perceptions and realities of GRC and putting in the work. We want to be improving always up and to the right. We don't want to be floundering. And this is gonna be uncomfortable, right? You never made a pivot table before. A lot of this today is gonna go kind of over your head. But I think if you can take the time to follow the steps and watch the recording and ask for help, although it's gonna be uncomfortable, you're gonna get to that next level with some of these capabilities, all right? The Cyber Risk Management Action Plan comes from this book, Mastering Cyber Resilience by Accolade, and a prior book, Fire Doesn't Innovate, Kip Boyle, who wrote this book too. And the template we're building is framed in that book, and it even borrows, like, for example, 25 questions that you would ask a business, going across with questionnaires in HR, finance, IT, operations. Hey, you don't have a cyber resilience program or an InfoSec program. I have 25 questions to try to understand what are the top 5 cyber risks in your company, right? So we'll talk about that. And this process of how do I do the cybersecurity framework has 8 steps, and we're touching on, we're framing today's workshop in these, but I'm not diving deep. Happy to discuss them kind of outside though. And also I did want to briefly skim through what it's all about, right? So step 1 is, let's change the problem statement from putting in the best technical controls to how do we move the needle on cyber resilience culture? That's something that you can't just buy off the shelf and plug in, and it's got people, process, and technology elements. That was just on the daily cyber threat briefing like 1 or 2 days ago, and it's an important point to start this out. How are we going to identify top cyber risks and move the needle on cyber risk reduction in a business? Start by widening your scope. You got to win hearts and minds. Even if your ideas are the best to make improvements, if you don't win hearts and minds and get buy-in, it's not going to be helpful. And that involves having a clear understanding of a vision and rationale for the change, involving people and co-creating that vision. So when giving a questionnaire that we're building today to those interviewees and walking them through it, you're involving them in the process, and you're learning from them and they're learning from you, and you're starting to embed cyber resilience into the culture of the organization. All right. So being a change agent is a big theme here, and being a practitioner, although I'm not deep diving into that now. That's why we're making this questionnaire, okay? And we're going to give it to interviewees in middle management and senior individual contributors across the business. Base our questions in the NIST cybersecurity framework at a category level. 6 functions, 22 categories, 106 subcategories. And that brings us to Excel. So let's get to the hands-on workshop. You can We're going to start by going to NIST.gov and downloading a spreadsheet. I won't really have time to bring you along if you're stuck during the 45-minute hard times slot, but I can follow up with you after. And if I can't follow up with you in the 15 minutes after the recording, outside 9 to 5 in coming days, I'm happy to as well. All right. So step 1, please download this spreadsheet. I've already got it here. All right. It's at NIST.gov, the Profiles 2.0 template. And we're going to start transforming it into a questionnaire and include this really cool risk to cost of control curve in terms of how would you classify your capabilities in those 22 categories and make some cool charts. So let's get into it. Step 1, download it. I've got it on the right. Step 2, I just want to make an observation. If you don't know what an Excel table is, okay? So we're in this free spreadsheet from NIST. And if I'm noticing there's a little table ribbon in green here. If I click out here, it's gone. If I click inside, it comes back. What is this thing? Well, it's called the table. And NIST even gave it a name, Sheet Table 0. Okay. And start using these. Start hitting Command-T on a Mac or Control-T in Windows and making your data into a proper table. Treat Excel in your data analysis work more like a database. All right? And why should you care? There's a bunch of reasons on the Microsoft website here, and you're going to see more in this workshop. But right away, the easiest way to explain it is, instead of talking in machine language of explicit cell references of C2 to C7, how about we talk in human language that I have a table called table CSF, right? And my column is called actual score. So that way, if I add rows and columns, it doesn't break my explicit cell reference. It's now a dynamic table that can be referenced, and there's other benefits too you're going to see. So just an observation there, but now we take our first real step and rename this table. So I want to make it my own, call it table CSF template. All right. And I like to prefix these with TBL as table because in Power Query, which is a native Excel capability that treats Excel more like a database and less like a brittle, non-scalable spreadsheet for our data analysis work, you query a table, right? And a table basically includes underlying data that can be modified. Queries you don't modify, right? Those are outputs. And so you'll see a query in a moment that'll make more sense, but the point is, I want to classify this thing as a table by putting that in the name. It's going to be helpful to me later. All right. Step 3, we're going to add a column. So I'll add it right here. CSF outcome type. I'll zoom in again now that there we go. And I want to put a formula in there that helps me classify column A, sort it out into function category and subcategory. But I'm a little rusty on my formulas. So why don't I just ask ChatGPT, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. And I even grabbed these cells and pasted it in, and it said, hey, why don't you try this formula here? So let's just try it and see what happens. Looks pretty good. Maybe I got to do a human review of the AI generated output, right? According to our NIST AI risk framework. So if I just filter for function and test it, yeah, it seems to have passed the test. I think it did a good job making that formula. And now I can move on to the next step. So that's just a tip to, if you're afraid of Excel and you're afraid of how to work it out, do have conversations with ChatGPT as a very helpful study buddy to get where you need to go. Now, Power Query. Let's do some extract, transform, load of data. You might not have heard of Power Query. Maybe you have, but you've probably more likely to have heard of extract, transform, load. So what I do is go into the Data tab and get data. You can extract from a number of sources. We're actually going to extract from this workbook itself. So I'll say get data from a workbook. And I want to select this workbook, which is right here. Next. And the table we named is this one. I think I picked the wrong one. Try that again. Data, get data. Maybe it's in downloads. Maybe my table didn't save. Hit cancel. Try that. What's our table name here? Yep. There it is. So I just didn't hit the save button. Sorry about that. I think that is in the steps. Check it. All right. So what's going on? I want to transform some data in my query editor. All right. So this is the query editor, and I'm going to show you about some really cool data cleaning abilities that are surprisingly in Excel natively. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is filter by category, because that is the level of analysis that I want. And now I can call this column category. And now I want to add my own questionnaire column. So actually, this is what NIST had to make its CSF profile, but I have a very specific, tailored idea of the columns I need for my Cyber Risk Management Action Plan template. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and clobber over these with what I want. Actual score, minimum target, gap to target, and then I got 3 more. And what is my desired target for cyber resilience? And then gap to desired target. Okay. I'm going to delete the rest, and then we can make some more changes. I don't need any of this. I just highlight the columns and say remove. You'll see that these applied steps are being captured here in sequence, which is super handy for unwinding changes and solving problems and taking modules from one Power Query to another. And it's also making a script if you prefer to view it in code. You're going to see that in a second. All right. Now, another thing I want to do is add a function column. How would I do that? Well, we have a function on the left here. What if we duplicated this and split it by a delimiter of the dot in the middle? So I'll pick a custom delimiter of a dot and say OK. Sweet. Now I can call this function. I can throw this guy out and drag it to the left. I know the clock's ticking. This dragging is, we're almost there. There we go. Awesome. I think there's a couple quick changes in the instructions. Yeah. Just like when you're making a database, you want to classify the data type. And so here, let's change it to a decimal number. So change type, decimal number. And why don't we, in this example, tell this business, you know what? In the 0 to 10 scale, the minimum you need for everything is always a 5. Okay? So let's just make that the baseline minimum target. So there's this idea to, under transform, replace values and replace null with 5. Okay. We're done, and I'm ready now. I've made a query off of my table, and I'm ready to load the query. So let's do that. Close and load. Super cool, right? So we took this, oh, I missed one step, which was to name this a query. So I'm going to go into Power Query Editor and just rename this thing. I told you I want to differentiate between queries and tables. And try that again. Awesome. And then I'll just rename this manually. All right, so going back to the steps, I blasted through all of these formatting changes in Power Query to give you an idea of what it can do. I'm showing the full script, and I have a copy paste of it here that you can take a closer look at. We're just doing some cleaning of a data set so that we can extract insights from it. That's where we're going. And we're going to make that cyber resilience scorecard using these some charts based on this data set, okay? We did a close and load, and now I mentioned that we don't edit queries because they are outputs. But I do want to edit this, so I'm going to make it a new table and paste values. There it is. Okay, Control T or Command T to make a table. Awesome. We'll call it table. CR map results. And we're ready to keep going. What's next in the instructions? So you're learning about tables, you're learning about queries, and now we're learning about how to make that questionnaire from Accolade, okay? Or the Mastering Cyber Resilience textbook. So they said, you know what, when we're looking at 22 questions for the business, I actually want to talk a little bit extra about supply chain, right? Because we know that grew. It has 10 subcategories, but we know that it grew in 1.1 and 2.0 of the CSF to add more there. So let's add that. Don't want to add 10 things because you want to keep it simple, but let's add 2. There are 10 subcategories, as I mentioned, and then implementation examples for each. And we're just going to kind of call them ABC to keep it simple. All right, one more thing, we're going to do it in the protect area here, our access controls, and copy this. And you have, it's an orange table in your workbook. I'm going to bring it over in a second, the full list of questions. But I'm just showing you here that we are modifying our data set to suit our needs. We can set a number format in decimals, fine. All right. And decimals is a little bit fussy, but that's okay. Perfect. All right. So now, how would I bring this tab into my new workbook that I just downloaded from NIST.gov? Well, if we open up this guy, which you have from the Google Drive, find that Mastering Cyber Resilience tab, move it over, copy it, put it in here, and Bob's your uncle. Yep. So here is that new table we made. We'll call it table CR map results. And now let's bring in these questions and context. How would we do that? Well, I'm going to add a category called questions. And context, and we're going to do an XLOOKUP. And I wonder in chat if anybody has done a VLOOKUP or an XLOOKUP before. Context. XLOOKUPs are better. The VLOOKUPs are very popular, but they get brittle and non-scalable. All right, XLOOKUP. So what I'm looking up now is this value of GVOC, and I want to look in an array of the orange table questions. So I Command-Shift down to highlight the whole column, comma, and then return questions, please. If you don't find it, say no match. Yep. GVOC. Okay. Did we have a GVOC? And this is called table MCR. Try that again. Look up. Oh, it wasn't. Yeah, I have the same array there twice. So it's not returning anything. Okay. Let's try that again. Look this up in here, question ID, and return questions. See if that works better. Whew, it sure did. All right. And now once you have a formula set up over here and you just want to add a different column, it's real easy. You grab that XLOOKUP formula, put it over here, put in the same one. And I'm just going to move over from questions to context. So look in the table called MCR, that orange table. Look at the question ID, but don't return the questions column. Please return the context column. And I blew away too many characters. Here we go. That looks better. Oh, sorry. Look that up there. Return questions. No, we want context. Right. Very carefully say context here. And see, it recognizes it. Okay. Better. All right. So we've now done an XLOOKUP to bring new content into the primary key of our question name. All right, so that's a helpful thing. When you're getting different data sources, right? Like maybe you're getting the list of employees and email addresses from an HR database, and you're getting a list of phishing results from your phishing tool, right? You would use an XLOOKUP to join those things together. All right, so we'll keep moving. And Jerry, is everything still working okay? I'm not really watching chat. I'm just going ahead.
Yeah, everything's good. I'm responding to students in
Thank
chat.
you.
Some of them are having a little bit of issues, but they're technical issues, not related to what you're doing.
Gotcha.
Yep,
Okay.
everything's good.
Thanks for the pulse check. And then again, I'm blasting through it, but we can talk more after through the demo. All right. So now there's this concept of grouping columns, right? So for my interviewees, if I go over here and say group, outline group, this is a really handy way to roll up and drill down the data sets for the right need and audience. So me, I'm in the back end and I want to see everything, but an interviewee only really needs to see the actual score on the question, right? So if I use groups in columns and rows and just hit the one button, very quickly I get to a view that is good for them, but then very quickly I can get the whole enchilada when I need it, okay? And we'll do a little bit of formatting and I think we move on. So align top and wrap text is going to do a lot to help the visual presentation here, and we'll keep going, all right? So with respect to adding the scoring legend and data validation, adding the legend, you just add as a tab. You would copy that tab from one workbook to another, like I showed you with the orange one. I won't stop to do that now, but that's should be straightforward. Data validation is cool, and certainly security people appreciate input validation, right? So we only want 1s to 10s in here. So let's do some data validation. And then also, I love this feature. You can put the legend in front in this little menu here that makes it easier to remember what the scale is when you're trying to determine a score, all right? So I'm copying that. I'm going to the top of the table, and let's do some data validation. I go to insert or data validation. Settings, allow only decimal numbers from 1 to 10. Input message, we'll call it the scoring legend. Bob's your uncle, and there it is, right? So if I'm interviewing someone saying, hey, how well does your organization understand its larger operating context when making cybersecurity risk management decisions? Gee, I guess we're average, we're okay. All right, well, according to the scoring legend, if you do this consistently with some minor occasional flaws, you get a 5. So
Hey,
that
Steve,
feels, oh, go ahead.
yeah, can you just punch in on that Excel? Because half that sheet is white and dead. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, sorry about that. Yep, better zoom level there, eh? Got it. Thank you. All right, so we're into step 11. This is another really cool thing, whether you're in security or outside it or GRC or another role, SecOps, like you're working with data, slicers are your friend. So I'm going to insert some rows here and show you what a slicer is. And it's another reason to love tables in Excel. So you just say insert slicer when you're in the table. We'll do it by function. And now I can filter by my recover categories or my governance categories, and I have a really handy tool for that, okay? And then to put them nicely across the top, you just change columns and let's say 6. And, you know, you can say clicked or not clicked, and you can say which business unit it is, right? Depending on the data that you're working with. But all of us are working with data, and it could be for CSF, for a questionnaire, or anything else. All right. Now, so what have we done so far? We've built a scorecard. No, we've built a questionnaire, right? That's helpful for making a scorecard. And now we got to go out and talk to those interviewees across the business. But I don't have time right now, so I'm going to ask artificial intelligence. And there's this awesome open source framework from a security person, Daniel Miesler. Jerry's talked about it. I've talked about it. It's on GitHub. And I'd love to, but I don't have time to install the Fabric client and walk you through what it is. But if you check out these blog posts, you can get more context on that, you know, including from the source, like, you know, Daniel Miesler, David Bombal. And I've put some GRC wrapper on it talking about, I have some custom patterns in here, custom prompts for risk assessments. But today I'm showing you one for CSF category scoring. So I'm just going to show you that, and if you're curious, we could talk about it more down the road. But let's just do one, okay? And you see the thing, what it does, right? So I'm going to fire up a terminal, and I like to use Visual Studio Code, but you could use your Mac terminal. All right, and I have a Fabric client installed already, so I won't cover that today. And you can see here that I can toggle between different LLMs, and today I'm going to use Claude 3 Opus because it's good. And I want to call on my custom pattern that talks about being an expert in cyber resilience management, that takes a deep breath and thinks and applies the cybersecurity scoring legend to its input. And for an input, I want to give it the 2018 Equifax data breach report, which is out in public, and it is 96 pages. I'm just going to hit Control A and copy it. Takes a bit. And now we have an input to run into our terminal, and we'll say pb paste fabric, a pattern called, what did we call it? CSF category score. And let's stream the results and let it rip. While that's processing, that was from December 2018, right? There was also a number of podcasts done by Jamil Farshi, who is a great follow on LinkedIn and talks about the improvements that were brought to Equifax following that incident. And so let's try another one that instead of using text from a document as an input, uses YouTube, okay? So it's taking this podcast URL right here, and we'll try that one. Terminal, new. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to paste. So you have the prompt, you have the link. I'm just showing it to you live. And so you can see what it's doing. Kind of a ChatGPT type experience, except it's in a terminal. And it's specifically making a CSF file, okay? So it's making some columns. It's scoring, its assessment of the capabilities for the governance category here on organizational context. It's giving it a 2.5 out of 10, all right? And then it's saying, why it gave it that score. And when it's done, it's going to give some recommendations, okay? And to fast forward, basically for the 2018 report, it gives a score like this, below the 5 minimum target, with some kind of deficiencies and an analysis of what it thinks based on the report and based on the cybersecurity framework, okay? And then on this one, talking about its improvements, it had higher scores and reasons why here. So super cool capability, and I encourage you to check more out. And a lot of these patterns at the GitHub repo are security related. And I also have one on making risk assessments, and then this one for CSF, okay? But for today's workshop, we're focused more on Excel. Let's just make sure this one's working. Yeah, they both are, right? You kind of get an idea. So for me, when I saw that, it was pretty face melting, and it's been pretty enriching to learn more about it. When it runs, you want to get in Excel. So how do you do that? Because it's this text in a terminal, right? It's real easy. You just copy the text, file new in Visual Studio Code, and save it as a CSV and pull it into your spreadsheet. So that's what we're going to do next is, of course, be a human and review the results. But basically just, you'll notice in the file in the Google Drive, yeah, we have this fabric output from Equifax, right? So it spit this out for the 2021 podcast. I modified some things because I wanted to show examples of what below 5 would look like for graph chart purposes. And let's just go ahead and keep moving with building our charts now, right? So we've been 33 minutes, and I'm going to hit charts, and then we can maybe open up for a bit of Q&A. So we're getting there. So I'll move or copy to this thing and say, okay. All right. So we now have some actual scores. Instead of interviewing people and collecting them manually, we did this demo example for Equifax. Now let's go into our results tab and look those in, right? So if I go over here, same deal. I'll try not to screw it up this time like I did last time. All right. My primary key, another table with another name. Lookup array is here. Yep. Return array is here. If not found, no match, please. Aha, there's some values in there that aren't 0 to 10, and we put on that data validation, right? So I'm actually going to remove that data. Allow any value, but keep our legend because it's super awesome. And I'll try that one more time. It could have been a number of things in terms of formatting of the fields, but I won't troubleshoot too hard. I'll just keep moving so you get the broad strokes of the skills and techniques to learn and start practicing. All right, so we're looking up the ID as the, oh, I did a VLOOKUP. Sorry, bad habit. I'll try again. The thing about VLOOKUPs is they're more brittle. They're not as dynamic. All right, we're looking up this guy. Oh, I was in the wrong place. I want the value to go in G5 and everything below G5. Try that again. Look up this, please. In here. Return here. You see, once you get a hang of it, it's not so intimidating. To start off, it's intimidating. Boom. And it cascaded them all down. All right. And then some of them did have a no match. And so I'm just going to, for demo purposes, just make those 4s. And see if there's any more. All right, we're ready to make some charts, which is going to be awesome. So I'm going to expand this. And we now have some targets to measure our actuals against, right? You know, where are we going? Well, we have a CSF current state profile as an honest baseline. Where do we need to go? That's the target. And you might have 2. You might have a minimum, like just to get the essentials, and then a desired state, which is a longer term roadmap, right? You want to be collecting data and measuring yourself against something and then evaluating performance, and that helps you facilitate your cyber resilience communication across the business. Okay, so we've got minimums. Let's make a gap. So if my actual is 6 and my target is 5, then I'm above it, right? And I'll do a little bit of formatting here real quick. Align top. That's better. All right, desired target. Let's just say it's 6, kind of arbitrarily. Jerry would say in reality, it's kind of spikier, less consistent, and that would be very academic to have a perfect circle, but we'll leave it like that for demo purposes. And so if my actual is 6.5 and my desired is 6, I'm above, good. But if I'm below, it's negative, right? And so in doing a variance analysis, there's this idea of conditional formatting, if you're familiar with that at all, or if you're not, I want to show you what it is. It's helpful for you to kind of win hearts and minds and gain credibility and use your data to communicate the insights. And actually, I think one of the leading points I wanted to make that I haven't yet is that early in my career, I got some advice from a famous Canadian who just talking about his career. He came from nothing and was very successful. And he said, it was my Excel skills that inverted the power dynamic between me and executives, right? Like that's a pretty powerful statement. And I want that for you too. Like you want to be able to wield the data analysis to get the insights that help a business be a compass to make decisions, and frankly, to invert the power dynamic between you and the people that aren't as capable with data analysis, right? And that can be for cyber resilience or anything else. It could be for GRC, InfoSec, right? Like everything. It's just valuable skills, all right? Like GRC, it's not the glamorous, exciting stuff, right? But it is the stuff that makes an impact. All right, that's why I really wanted to talk about this today. So if I'm greater than 0, I want to be green. Green is good. 0, okay. And one more, if I'm less than 0, red, please. Awesome. And so right away, we're telling a story with numbers. And then I don't need to do that work again to put it somewhere else. There's this idea of conditional formatting or copying formats, which I'm going to put over here as well. And that was fast. I think we're ready to make some charts, which is going to be fun in part 3. Have some favorite need to study right now mug, water. All right. So we added scores, we added formulas, we did the formatting. Great, great, great. Yes, let's make a bar chart. Okay, cool. So I just click anywhere in the table and I say insert chart and make it a pivot chart actually. Put it in a new tab, sure, that's fine. Let's start with function and drill down to category later. They put the functions in alpha order. We know governance comes first and identify second, but I won't be too fussy. And let's look at our actual scores to minimum target and desired target. And right away, your kind of chart's just so helpful to appreciate the data, right? Now, there's this idea of a combo chart with a line chart and a bar chart combined as a combination, all right? Before I do that, I'm noticing that we're getting a sum of the scores. We don't want that. We want an average. So let's hit all of those and say average. And now it's going to start looking more like that scorecard we started this workshop with, right? So if I grab one of these and right-click and say change chart type to line, and not this one, but this guy right here. Awesome. And now minimum, do the same thing. Change chart type to line. Also awesome. Okay, and so great. Like we have actuals against some lines, and we can talk about what we're going to do to close those gaps. All right. Now, yeah, I can do some formatting here. Sure. You just do it right in the pivot table, and it's going to go in your pivot chart as well. And you can make dashed lines if I've had executives that are colorblind, right? And so we go into format that and make it a dash. So over here, click the line. That's what I wanted to format. Dashes, and we go like that. Perfect, right? So that's how you do that. Now let's make a radar diagram. So I can copy this thing, put it over here. This pivot table is referencing that same underlying table, right? But now I'm going to make a different kind of chart. And I'm going to make a radar diagram like that, okay? And we'll just, I got to zoom in, right? Because this is too easier to consume, right? There you go. And so I'm looking at this, and I can see that the three metrics are here, but they're not in the order I want. I kind of want, that looks better. That looks way better. Okay, cool. So minimum is my inside line, and I want to make that red. If your actual isn't at minimum, you're red. And actually, people are pretty fussy about the colors to use, so I always come back to swatch colors, and this might be the most, this is certainly a valuable thing. Like if I just think of the number of times I reference these swatch colors, the blog post is worth a read. This guy, we're going to make this yellow. All right. We want to be all killer, no filler, with helpful tips to save us time and energy. There you go. And now actual, I can just make a blue color. And a cool trick here is to make it a little bit transparent. If we go like this and make the opacity about 80, boom, now we have what was on the scorecard, right? So it's 113. I'm going to do one thing, and then I'm going to stop. So move or copy, create a copy. I just want to show you that if I add to this as a copy category, immediately I now have the 22 categories. All right, so that's end-to-end how to make the scorecard using those Excel tips. I'm going to stop there and just see if there's like 2 minutes of questions, and then we can continue in Discord. I could probably do 15 minutes immediately in Discord, and then, as I mentioned, outside 9 to 5 in the coming days. All right, well, so thanks very much, and over to you, Jerry, to kind of wrap things up.
All right, yeah, thanks, Steve, so much. I appreciate that. Definitely love that. Couple programming notes. One, the Discord server, Steve's going to go over there, and we've created a stage. So there's workshop where you guys have been chatting right now, and then there is workshop stage underneath that. Thank you very much, Casually Joseph, for that. Steve, if you liked this particular step, just to correlate, Steve is actually an instructor at Simply Cyber Academy. Some of you already know that. This actually is one of his lessons from his, which one is it? The Certified Risk Professional one?
Cyber Resilience Practitioner, the one that's coming up in mid-November.
Yeah, so it's not even released yet. So you're actually getting early access to the learning in there. But this was perfect. I hope you guys could take it. I saw, Steve, a lot of people in chat, no surprise, said that they're going to have to go back and watch this on replay because it was fast. Steve does have a blog post that accompanies this, and it literally step by step by step by step. So you should be able to go back and pick up this skill and add it to your repertoire. I'm telling you, as someone who's done GRZ for a long time, like being able to take the data that you're getting and make it into digestible information is one of the secret sauces. Like there's probably like 3 or 4 secret sauces. That's one of the secret sauces. So this is a really great skill, and I strongly encourage you you pick it up and add it to your repertoire, because you'll use it over and over again. Like Space Tacos is in here right now. I know Space Tacos is doing these audits and stuff. This skill right here is perfect, dude. Executives love spider graphs, like infographics. It's, you know, I'm biased obviously, but infographics are all good. So one question, Bear Cell wants to know, can you use the scorecard to calculate key cyber metrics like IR time and others?
Yeah. Like you're going to get that data from disparate sources, and you're going to use tables and queries to first to get a bit happy with the extract, transform, load, right? And then you can use these techniques to present your data in different ways. And so it doesn't mean that you're necessarily, although you could plug it into this scorecard, it just means that you're going to be doing conditional formatting and data validation and making radar diagrams and bar charts, right? So, you know, if you let me know a little bit more about the data that you have, I could talk about, you know, how to present that and what, you know, how I might do it using these techniques. It's about the skills and techniques more so than the finished product of that CSF scorecard.
100%. Yes. Space Taco is talking about spider graphs, spooky and scary. All right, let's go ahead and take you guys over there. I've got to run to a physician's appointment. Right here is the workshop where you guys have been chatting right now on the Simply CyberCon Discord server. This, Steve, is where I want you to go. This will enable us to have real-time conversations without the delay of streaming, as well as being able to, you know, basically see the questions yourself. This has been the Simply CyberCon 2024 workshop. Steve McMichael was our instructor today. Steve, thank you so much for your contribution and for kicking off Simply CyberCon.
Thank you. So excited for tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you all later. And seriously, go over to the workshop. Steve's going to jump in there right now and answer any outstanding questions you have. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And we'll see you in the next one.